Hello, everyone, and welcome to the JUARA Wellness Webinar. Really excited here today. We have Cassandra Freeman. Hey, Cassie, how are you doing today?
Fabulous.
And get ready to be inspired. I love your story. We're going to jump into it real soon. So let's just kick it off. We're here to the JUARA Wellness Webinar, and the topic specifically is about collaboration to make the impossible possible. Now, we're talking about an amazing woman who launched a company in the middle of a pandemic while juggling a career as a busy actor. What the heck? So we're going to hear about how it is done. So a little bit about JUARA for those of you who are familiar with us. Welcome back. Those of us who are new, we are in a skincare and beauty and wellness company inspired by the Indonesian jamu tradition. We basically use superfoods and a lot of amazing ingredients that's good for our health, that's natural, that's been around for thousands of years and making a heck of a comeback, especially now when we realize staying healthy is the best way to prevent from being ill. We're also about holistic wellness in community, about nurturing deep social connections, because wellness is really about connecting and listening to other people so our soul also feels nourished, not just our body. So it's all that. And also we believe in mindful rituals, which is being intentional in doing things with a purpose and with meaning. So that is what our brand is. And this is why we also hold these wellness webinars, because it's about nourishing these hearts and minds so we can connect to the community, offer content, like amazing things that Cassie's going to share with you. And it's also a platform. We want to celebrate you. We want to hear what you're doing, and we want to share what you are doing with everyone out there. So let's get started. Today we have Cassandra Freeman, actor, writer, executive communications consultant, which is like super slick. Stay tuned. Lots of good tidbits. And the founder of Creatrix House. Cassie, you are an unstoppable force, and it's interesting to be reading about you all year. So I am just going to go straight to you.
Good. It's so awkward when someone just starts being, she's remarkable, inspired. And you're like, really? Really? We're talking about the new car? We're talking about yeah.
And you had to like sit there and be like, yes, they're talking about me. But, you know, I just love your story. I just want to kick in, and can you share how we got, this topic, collaboration and making the impossible possible? That's the theme. Tell me about what brought you here today with that idea, with that theme.
It's impossible for me to have created anything in my career without collaboration. And what's interesting is, like, people hear the word collaboration, and usually when I've taught it, like at Fordham University, I taught there for the last 12, 13 years. And what's interesting is usually when you teach this, people think of compromise, not of collaboration. And collaboration really is the skill of anchoring yourself in what's important in a relationship, understanding each other's vocabulary, and then trying to create something with both of you feeling like you're bringing your best self to the table, right? And so when I look at my entire career, my best partnerships are because we thought of it as a collaboration. There was no ego at the table. So the reason why I'm here today is because we met each other at an amazing dinner put together by a friend of ours, but we sort of connected with a lot of these same sort of ideas, and also how the outside shows on the inside and how the inside shows on the outside. And I feel like a lot of the reason that everything I've done in my life has been really great is because of collaboration, from my agents to my managers to the actors and the directors I've worked with to the schools I've taught at. That's always been at the core of it. And listen, when it's not the core of it, then I'm out, okay? Because then my stomach starts to hurt. And I feel like even my marriage, everything is about collaboration. That's what you hope for. That's what you go for. You go for that and not compromise. Hopefully everyone leaves the table and they feel like they won. When you get to a win-win, drop the microphone, okay?
No, I mean, for us, it's the same thing too. It's like, I'm in a business partnership with two other people. We thought it was going to be impossible to start a company about a topic and a subject that when we started, no one ever heard about. Nobody knew what Indonesia was. No one cared. But you're right. It is with the right partnerships and people we've met along our journey. I don't think we would have gone here without them.
Oh my God, you have to have like the same vision at least. There's a great exercise that has nothing to do with anything. And what you do is you have to think inside of your head, like, how would you want 3 objects to be set up in the room? And can you use just your words to communicate that? It's so difficult for most people because people speak as if they are only having to communicate to themselves, not to the other person. So to even try to bring something into an existence, that means you're like diving into some mystical world that has not even been manifested yet, trying to communicate it to someone else who still lives in this world. And you're like, no, go into my imagination and let me tell you about this unknown place. It's a very scary process, and it takes a lot of intimacy to actually create a company out of nothing, to create anything out of nothing.
That is true. So, the opposite of community and collaboration is aloneness and isolation. And I think we were talking about this topic. Can you share with us and maybe the people who are new to you and just your personal story and kind of your journey as an actor and how you went past it and how we actually got here?
Well, that's a really big question, but in general, I find
like your experience as an actor, basically.
Right. So again, I feel like the only way you can succeed is if you find a group of people who see the same vision that you have. And so like, even if I went back as far as like when I was in high school, when I was in college, even up until I got to grad school, I was the only person who had a vision for my life. And the vision I had was that I was going to be a Hollywood actress, and I'd work with people like Denzel Washington and Spike Lee. This was the vision I had in my head since I was in high school. And throughout my journey, no one ever said to me, yes, I see that for you. Never. And when it did happen, I was like, oh, who is this person? And so my life became a game of finding people who agreed with the vision. And this vision to me like resonated in my body like excitement, as if it was already here. And so in high school, I had like one teacher who was like, but otherwise no one in the theater department thought I should do this for a living. Then I went off to Florida State, same thing. No one in the theater department thought I should do this for a living. But there were like a couple of directors in the directing program who were like, you are talented. I'm like, can we do something together? Let's collaborate. Let's do something. So we would go off and like create something together and do fun. So I did lots of shows outside of Florida State, but never really at Florida State. And then when I finally did do a show at Florida State, it was like to play the maid in like comedy affairs. Like anything I did at Florida State, I was always the maid, but never this thing. And then when I left Florida State, I said, I want to go to NYU for grad school because I feel like I need more training. And they're like, no one from Florida State has ever gotten in there because you have to be really talented. And amazingly, I got into NYU and auditioned for NYU and Yale because I thought if I was going to spend money on grad school, it should be the best place. And when I walked onto NYU, it felt like collaboration. And the classes there literally live in the world of its games and its play and its collaboration. So the teachers and we all like had that. It was like love at first sight. So that's what happened. And as soon as I graduated from NYU, before I even got my cap and gown, the first thing I got cast in was a movie starring Denzel Washington where Spike Lee was the director. And my whole life like made sense. Like people from elementary school was like, this is all you used to say. And I'm like, thank you. I always said, I'm going to marry Denzel Washington and I'm going to work with Spike Lee. And lo and behold, the movie I do, I play Denzel Washington's fiance, and it's a Spike Lee movie. And guess what? Spike Lee was collaborative. All he said is like, what do you think? What do you feel? Denzel Washington was collaborative. He would say, what do you think? What do you feel? Let's change the script so that way the script feels more like us. And so that's why I say the cornerstone of my life is based on that feeling. And certain things fall away from me because they're not meant for me, and sometimes not meant for me because it's probably not the atmosphere that I would be able to grow in. So that's how we got here. I don't know if that story helps, but that's a little.
No, it's interesting. And what kept you going when you didn't feel that kind of support? I mean, like, because you're kind of not feeling it.
It's hard to even say what kept me going because I just got used to thinking that's just how it is, to the point that I have a friend, his name's Chris Sullivan. He's on This Is Us. I said this story to Chris, and Chris was like, this is so crazy because he's like, his whole life is the opposite. Everyone's always told him, you should be an actor. You should just go ahead. And I said, it's weird. No, my life was never like that. And it's just now changed where people are like, you know, it'd be great for you to do. It's been a very lonely journey. I just assume that's how it is. And truthfully, I never took it too personally because I also understood I lived in the South, which is Florida. I know the history of the South when it relates to Black women. Also, the shows that these universities and the high schools were picking, they pick shows where it would be very uncomfortable for them to give a role to a Black woman because the role is historically played by white women. So you're asking for people to also to do what Hamilton did, which is Hamilton is a success, but they didn't typecast, that meaning they didn't cast the role as it historically should be done. And so I was asking a lot from my high school and from my college to do such a thing. NYU does it all the time, you know. So by the time I get, and also my idea of New York was if I can just get to New York, that's where the real creative people are, where they think outside of the box. This is Florida, it's the South. So I just thought of it as, they're just not as advanced as me. So it's okay. Of course you don't see me. You don't see me because you don't see what great creativity. That's how I like framed it in my head.
No, I love the way you framed it because true in so many ways, and sometimes, but that is such the thing. In order to stay so creative and positive, it's that holding on to a vision where there's not even space to fight naysayers. There's just not enough space because you're just so busy kind of believing in what it is. And you know, Lena mentioned talk about manifestation. I think that is totally, you know, part of manifesting something that's true is just really believing that it is going to happen, and everything else is just kind of like distraction on the side.
That's exactly right. Everything else is distraction that you just are paring away. But it's weird. I can't remember a time where I was like, oh, acting's a bad idea. In high school, I was so committed to it. And at Florida State, I was so committed. At NYU, I was so committed to it that it was inevitable. And also, I didn't know what else I would have done. Because the other thing I thought I was going to be was like a politician or a pastor. It's like hilarious. Okay. and there's still time left for me to do both. I might end up having my own church. I mean, I really thought I was going to be a nun or a pastor. So the reason I ended up even in acting is that I just love the idea that you could maybe perhaps transform people's thoughts and feelings about what they see and what they saw and by the stories. I mean, we are a very particular type of human being because if there's this great book called Sapiens about all the different types of humans. And they say this version of human is very special because the reason we were able to outlive the other humans is because we understood the power of story. And so story controls your context and your perception. You could almost say like, yeah, manifestation, quantum physics or something. So that's what makes us really special. So I'm lucky enough that, you know, I think to be a woman, you got to be very creative and hold on to your own idea anyway. But how'd I get through it, honey? How'd I jump from being a pastor to an actor? It's so funny to me. And people often think that, oh, well, being all three of those things are different. They're very similar. They're all trying to teach some type of moral, ethical idea. And also, to be an American, I really don't believe there would ever been an Obama if there weren't like a Morgan Freeman who played God, and Sidney Poitier who says, my name is Mr. Tibbs. Like it goes into people's brains like, oh, it's normal to see a person like that have power. It's you start normalizing certain things through story. It's a form of propaganda, but if you use it for good, it's a very powerful form of propaganda.
That is very true. You know, I want to jump through as you were talking about your journey. We were talking about the brunches that you had when we were in New York. Can you tell us a little about kind of the experience of you and the other actors that, you know, you invited together, kind of what those brunches are about?
Yes. I don't know which part of the story to start from, but I'd say the reason. So yes, I'm known for putting together these things called Blacktress brunches, which then evolved into just brown girl, black girl brunches. Like just come and let's have a mimosa and hang out. Okay. And it came out of this thing of where the only time I would ever get to connect to my fellow actresses were in the audition hallway or at the audition room. You know, that's the only time I got to see these people. And these are women who I admire. And every time we'd see each other, it would feel like a party in the waiting area because you'd see people, you're like, oh my God, how have you been? Oh my God. Okay, I gotta go. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye. And you go into the room and then you compose yourself and you audition. And I kept saying to people like, oh, will someone throw a party? Like, oh, it's your birthday. Okay, I'm gonna try to make it. Just never worked out. And then I started to be like, you know what, someone should do something. You know what, maybe I should do something. You know what, I've been thinking about. So this is, if someone was taking notes on communication, I'd say, or manifestation, I say, number one is, as soon as you start to formulate an idea, just start saying it all over the place. Just keep telling everyone. It's almost like you're enrolling people into a future that is yet to come. And you're enrolling them and taking a poll to see, is it a good idea? So I kept saying to people, y'all, I'm thinking about throwing a party. And people are like, yes. And I was like, really? And I said, yeah, y'all, I'm thinking about just throwing a party for us. Yeah, y'all, I'm thinking about maybe we should just have a big gathering just for us. And every time I kept saying that, people were like, oh my God, please do that. I would come. So that's what I did. I threw a party here in my house, and it was very simple. And the first time, maybe 15 or 20 people showed up, and it was like this spiritual opening of all of these actresses, all at different tiers. And we were all sharing with each other our successes and our losses and what we've learned and what we've lost and what has been really challenging. It had nothing to do with ego, fame. It had nothing to do with money. It really was just about how are we leaping from every phase of our life in a way that feels not only successful, but rewarding, is what we were talking about. And from there, I did it again. And the next time it was like 4 times that amount of women. And from there, I was like, you know, maybe there's something to this. But can I say, the first time I threw this party and the second time I threw it, I thought I was going to have a panic attack, because I was like, this is the dumbest idea. No one's going to come out to this.
Well, why would you think that no one would come? I'm so curious.
Well, first of all, I don't know if you throw a lot of parties. I'm thinking you do a little bit. Yes, you have much better self-esteem around parties. But I always think to myself, like, the worst thing would be to throw a party and no one comes. Mind you, that's never happened. But I'm always just like, does anybody even want to come and hang out with me? Like, is this a thing? And so every time I threw it, I thought maybe people won't understand why I'm throwing the party. And I said this early today in the preview that we had, which is anything that you have great resistance or fear over, it's sometimes a very strong signal that is the thing you absolutely should do. And so I thought, why would I have such a strong feeling? And it's just a brunch. Like, Cassie, I kept thinking, even if 2 people showed up, that's a success. So who cares? And what I found out from that, which you already know, which everybody knows, is what you feel, often other people feel too.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking that it's like when you feel so strongly about something, chances are you're not the only one. It's just waiting for, oftentimes you just wait for the leader to kind of kick it off, and then the ball gets rolling. And
Isn't it crazy? We sit around waiting for a leader to come, but the leader is you. You know, it's whoever thought it. You could just go do it. And I am really great I'm not a psychic, but I am good at looking at people, hearing what they do, and amplifying it, saying, you know what it sounds like you should be doing. Like, I'm like the great seer, but I'm not a great seer you can never heal thine own self. That I can do it to other people, but not. So I'm sure anyone else looking at me is like, Cassie, of course you're the perfect person to do it. But on the inside, I'm like, someone else should probably do this, right?
I think so many times about, I was thinking about the theme of what is it that makes impossible possible? And some of it are actually things that we tell ourselves, like, no one's going to show up to my party. I find that hard to believe. That's why I was like, why wouldn't they think so? And all of a sudden we're waiting for a leader instead of being the leader, just doing it. And you know what, the whole thing about resistance is so true, because a good friend told me, and I hold it today, if it's too easy, then your game isn't big enough. If it's too easy to do, you need to find a bigger game and a bigger challenge. Because once you get past that, then that's one more rung up, whatever that personal ladder is. And that's one more thing that you thought was impossible was possible. And I mean, what's cool is like the whole thought of people thinking about possible, impossible. It's like it's binary. It's like you do this great thing or you don't, but it's actually a series of little small steps that require courage. And then
Oh,
that seems
oh.
so hard. Yesterday was like, whatever.
As soon as it's done too, you're like, what was that? I think too, hearing you say all that, it makes me realize that I think I was also nervous because to be an actress, it's a very athletic game because you are in competition with other people. Theoretically, you are. In reality, you're not really in competition. But theoretically, you are in competition with other people. So a part of me was like, how will people feel to be surrounded by, like, even though I'm excited to be around everyone else, how does everyone else feel about it? And actually, my gut was right, which is people are excited to be around like-minded people. And who else? Black and brown women have very specific sort of journey in this industry. And I've been doing this now for 15 years, and the industry has changed in a phenomenal direction to where when I started, I remember my first agent told me, like, I would never be the lead and I would never be the love interest because of how dark I am. And so he was like, I'd make my money off of playing basically all of the dejected sort of people. And again, when he said that, it did not ring true for me. I was like, that does not sound right. But again, I smiled because I thought, I'm going to use this bridge, because it's very hard to get an agent. And again, I was very lucky or privileged to get an agent right out of school. So I just was like, I'm going to take this boat and see how far this boat takes me across this rivers. But I don't think what he says is right. Okay. And sure enough, like years later, the industry has just opened up where there have been so many more TV shows where Black women are at the lead and playing all sorts of interesting characters. So he was wrong and right, but ultimately wrong. But my inside was like,
No, it's that's the other thing too, is listening to that voice, because it looks like that inside voice is telling you what the thing to follow is, and just kind of like other people will be like, you know what, you might be right for now, but you're not right.
You're not right. You're just not right. And I think we all are born with our inner compass, even if the shit gets kicked out of us a lot along the way. I mean, I know if I had to think about like the most trying time in my life of where I felt like I had the most failure, it wasn't necessarily even in my career as much it was like in my personal life. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful for how horrible of a relationship I was in my late 20s, because it revealed to me, and you kind of hinted to this earlier, it hinted to me how I thought about myself. I was in this relationship with this man, and everything he said and did at the beginning was one thing, but by the middle and end, it was just like, it was a bad dream of a relationship. And by the end of that, I didn't even know. My story is, when I moved out and I had to put my own closet together, I remember having like a breakdown, like a panic attack, because I thought, who's going to give me permission about where my clothes should be hung? Like, that's how small I'd become. And it was so great that I heard that voice in my head, because I thought, I don't want to be that person. I want to be the boss. Like, why is anyone the boss over me? And it was a big changing point in my life. But before then, I mean, if you want to know who you think you are, look at who you call your husband or your wife or your significant other. If that, there's an old quote from the Fountainhead, Ayn Rand. She's like, show me who a man sleeps with, I'll tell you who he thinks he is. I think that's true for women as well. Okay, that's who you're sleeping with. Let me tell you who you probably think you are. And if it ain't a good story, y'all,
then change it. No, so
upgrade, yeah. But it's the upgrade of yourself. It's not even the other person. It's just like I'm so thankful for that, to reflect. But again, it's probably because I spent so much of my life hearing people say, no, you're not right. You're not right. I got used to that. And then you end up bringing that to a relationship. You're like, no, that's not supposed to be in my relationship life.
So how do you, this is sometimes what I get asked and what I think, and I think some people watching it maybe asking too, or thinking in their minds, we have a lot of voices in our head. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of us as people. When you meet people who you don't feel are as open or as vulnerable as you are, or you don't think that they're ready to listen, what are some suggestions that you've got? I mean, this is kind of like
Oh,
Cassie, the
I've got a great
human,
one.
and also Cassie, the executive communications, consultant, in bridging that gap where you can confidently throw that party whenever you want to throw it and know that whoever comes or doesn't come, it's going to be an amazingly connected experience. What are the things that we can do to
My
create
go-to strategy, okay, is in the moment. Before I even do that, this is how I start my classes. I used to draw a big circle on the board, and I'd say blue. And I'll say this to you right now, like, blue, what is the meaning of blue? And people might say, what would you say? Like, what's the meaning of blue? It'd be like the feeling. Like, what does it feel like? Blue is like,
it's my hair. No,
exactly right.
no,
It's
it's
a
kind of
hair.
like my identity. Blue is like nature. It's anything. It's from.
Identity, it's nature, it's calming, it's the ocean, it's Mother Earth. And I'm like, great. And I said, I used to have a friend who used to live her life thinking pink was like slutty. It's what a whore, a tramp. Like I remember she turned 40 and she doesn't realize she wore pink. And she's like, this is not pink, this is mauve. And we were like, that is pink. And she's like, she had such an idea around what she believed pink is. And I said, and so I tell my students, this is your feeling around a word. Imagine what your feeling is around certain people and concepts. So what you have to do is in a moment of great resistance or a moment of great challenge, you have to rewrite the story. So if you see blue on the board, it's not the meaning that you put there. You write that out. Instead, blue actually is just a color. Anything else is the meaning you add to it. So you can say the same thing is true when you meet a difficult person and they're saying or speaking to you. In the moment, you have to think, this is just this person's opinion. It's not the final opinion, right? And then you have to transform it. And you think, maybe this person is about to become my new best friend. Like literally, I've done this to people who have tried their best to like squish me, and I will change it in my mind. And I'll think, wow, this person really wants me to be successful. And so this is like a test from them to see if I can like pass the test or not. I had a casting director once say to me, listen, she basically told me I couldn't act. Listen, and this just happened before COVID, like in February. She told me I couldn't act. She was like, these are all of your problems. You should just talk faster as an actor. And I just stood there and I smiled. And she's the head of casting over at Warner Brothers. Very unprofessional woman. And I thought to myself, wow, she probably thinks she's giving me great directing notes right now. Like, that's what she's thinking. But what she's doing is trying to minimize me as an artist. And so I said to her, oh my gosh, thank you so much for this feedback. This is going to help me develop this character. And she's like, yes, I'm just trying to help you. Now imagine if I took all that and I said, listen, you can go to hell. But in my mind, I thought, she thinks she's helping. Now, mind you, when I left that room, I made a point to tell my people, never send me back over there again, because I have to protect myself, okay? I won't go back into that room again. But I survived that room in the moment. And so that's what I say to people. What's the story you're telling yourself? And is it the most empowering story? And think about that. Why would you tell yourself any story that's not powerful if you need to thrive in that moment? It's a game. All of life is a game. And that's a big one that I play all the time. I just listen. I'm like, it's not what they think this is right now. No.
And that reminds me when we first started JUARA, I mean, it was like Yoshiko and I literally playing the cold calling game. And we got so many no's. It was just kind of like the norm. And at first it was really disheartening because you're like, you're young, you're new. I like to think I'm still young, but we were younger, newer. And, there was one point, especially during the last recession, where we were calling people, they were saying no. We were calling our existing accounts. They were out of business. Like that's how we know that we didn't have an account anymore because, that was 2010. That was literally how we're like, oh, I guess we don't have this store anymore. Until we realized, you know what, let's just take no as in no for now.
You say
And they would give us all these reasons why no, we don't understand, like we don't have a place for you. What is this Asian holistic? I don't get it. Like what the heck is a turmeric? I think back, if you remember, like Lucky Magazine, like we love your ingredient but we can't feature it because it's the only one that's got turmeric in it. There's nothing else. So
isn't that crazy? They would rather feature chemicals and not something that.
Well, it was because he didn't know. And so we were like, but not now. No, not now. No. And then and then it was interesting. It just sometimes with that attitude, when things got better, all of a sudden yoga became in. And when the first juice bar came out, I did like my little happy dance. Because like our entire tradition is based on drinking your way to health by using superfoods like ginger and turmeric. And now that's like an old story. The beauty editors now, they're like, oh, whatever, a turmeric, ginger, tell me something new. I'm like, seriously. But it was this very same people who told us no, we were like, hey, how are you doing? Because we left those conversations making sure that the other person felt good about telling us no. Like I don't agree with you, but I hear you.
Then burn your bridges as you got your nose.
And we called every single one, and it was just the narrative change, their story change, and that was actually kind of the big tip off. Like I didn't even think about it until you had mentioned it, but we had no choice. We had to be like, okay, we have to create a story where no is not personal. It's not about us. It's not right now. It's just for right now. And then we come back later. And if we had taken any other narrative, I don't even think we'd be here, to be honest. So
for sure not. And I'd be shocked if not, that's everyone's through line. Because, it's funny. I'm so happy you told that story, because people would not look at what you're doing as something that you ever got rejected from, right? People would think, no, she's an entrepreneur, she created a product and she won. And it's like, you have to still get partners, you still have to get stores, you still have to get consumers, you got to get businesses. But people look at actors like that. They're like, oh, I could never deal with all the rejection. And I'm like, well, then what do you do for a living? If you don't, what do you do? Then you must just be a masterful employee. Okay. And an employee is someone who is guaranteed a check from somebody, no matter what, maybe. And I don't know. There are a lot of jobs like that. But I mean, what do you do that you don't have to fit? Even if you're a teacher in academia, if there's something that you want to do that's different, you might get a no at first. When you go to the powers that be and say, this is how I want to teach now, they'll probably say no at first. So I'm always like, what do you do? You've never had to stand up for a dream? What are you talking about? How you gonna flex that muscle? We all get rejected. That's a part of the hero's journey. You're supposed to have the inspiration, and then you go out. And this is also another thing I do. I think when times get really hard, and I remember maybe it was 2008 when the industry sort of went to sleep because it was there was like the actor strike, the director strike, there was the writer strike, all these strikes because we were trying to renegotiate contracts.
I remember that. Yeah.
Honey, nobody was working. Okay. Nobody was working. And so reality TV became the new big thing because network TV had nothing else. And talk about, you have to create a story to get through hard times. And so I kept thinking to myself, like, this is just part of the hero's journey. And this is the part of the movie where they're like, how will she keep her, like, her enthusiasm up if no one's even working? How is she gonna? And I kept thinking, this is just what it is for now. But soon it'll be like, oh, how I made it through.
Yeah.
And I was waiting tables back then. I remember walking to work thinking, I'm already international TV star. Oh, I'm in like an acclaimed international movie. Like this one. And I would think to myself, my biggest dream was after the Spike Lee thing, the second big dream I had was to always have this Meryl Streep moment, to like be in Africa and shoot some movie in Africa, and it like be this amazing movie and be like an amazing love affair. And honey, at the end of that strike, I booked a film that shot in Rwanda, Africa, changed my life, had a big love affair there.
Oh my gosh. I saw that. I saw in your reel that movie. I was like, oh my God, that is pretty awesome. That is amazing. Wow. That's really cool to hear.
That was an amazing movie. But the reason I even got back to New York at that point is because my girlfriend, She and I were both like out of work, and she got on a plane. She went back to New York, and every person I kept bumping into around that time, I was like, hey, why are you in LA? Here to tell you to come back to New York. I'm like, yeah, okay. My girlfriend got back to New York. She comes, she's like, Cassie, you got to go back to New York. Everyone's working in New York. No one's working in LA. New York still got jobs. And she was right. I got on a plane. I came back. I did a play. And the next thing I knew, I booked an indie film.
That's amazing. And
New York
so,
don't stop. That's what it means. And look, coronavirus is happening. New York is like not LA, but it's New York that's back up and running.
yeah,
The film
no, it
industry is back
is.
up.
So speaking of back up and running, I'd love to hear about Creatrix House.
Yes. So Creatrix House is like my baby. Okay, it's my new baby. And so Creatrix House was born out of those actress brunches. It's a company that is interested in advancing the lives of creative women of color. And that's the pillar of it. But here's the thing. It's open for everyone to be a part of it, because the philosophy is when you lift women up, you lift all of us up. So men are allowed to be a part of it. Women, white people are allowed to be a part of it, because the other thing is I'm interested in the collaboration of people coming together, trying to amplify the voices of those that do not usually get as big of a platform. So yes, it's for actors, but it's for really everyone in the entertainment industry. And it's also for other creatives, but right now we're really focused on the entertainment. So actors, writers, directors, people below the line. So if you're a sound designer, if you're a music arranger for TV and film, if you're the lighting person, I mean, all the things below the line and above the line is what this is for. And what I found is one part of it is this community. And we have these touch points every month where we have like a leading mind that comes speak. It's called a legend talk. Or we have a 2-day solutionary, which is a workshop where you learn a tangible skill that will help your career. Let's say we bring in a leading mind who's the head of a production company, and they'll talk about what it takes to create a winning pitch and a deck. Someone the next day will actually teach you these tools. So it's not just like we're talking, then you actually learn the tools. And the third most important part of the company is that we're interested in humanitarianism. So we have a calendar of touch points where people can all come together to help also amplify a nonprofit or an organization's voice. Because the other thing I find when all of us come together is that we're looking to find ways to give back. And many of my friends, very successful people, and they have a platform, but even with a platform, you still want to be able to collaborate with other people to have a bigger impact. I mean, this is why actors, musicians, everyone's always trying to figure out a way of like, how can we do a concert to save the world? Can we do a play to save the world? But what I realized is every time we wanted to save the world, it was so hard to get in contact with everyone. It's like, oh my God, do you have so-and-so's email? Oh no, who has so? And instead, this will be like a one-stop shop. You're like, everyone you need to know is here. It's for creative professionals who are at a certain level of their career, who know they want to give back, but who also want to be in community so they can collaborate. And men want that as well. And then here's the other thing that's great is that I have many white friends who are producers, who are directors, who are always reaching out to me saying, hey, I'm doing this project, but it'd be great if I could bring in a Black or brown person or an Asian person or someone else other than a white man to come in to really expand the vision of what we're trying to create. But there's no place to do that. You can't find that on LinkedIn. You can't put in Black producer. You can't do that on IMDb, Black producer. It'll just show you the top 50 great producers, but you can't get in contact with them. So this is a place where people who really want to be in connection with artists of color help uplift them, amplify them, give them jobs, and be in just communication and community with them at the same time. That's what this is. And I'm so excited because the people who have expressed interest to be a part of the company, not as even as individuals, but also as companies, it's really exciting because people are interested now looking around and realizing like, yeah, Cassie, why is my office only filled with white men? It never occurred to me before that I should be interested in diversifying so that way my stories can be more diverse. Oh, I didn't think about this. So that's what Creatrix House is.
No, I'm hearing that it's a safe space. It's a convenient place for people to get together, but it's also a safe space to have conversations that people who aren't normally connected or at least you don't have each other's numbers offhand, but just to really, it is by design created to have conversations that are diverse across all different aspects and all different, colors and levels and, angles of the creative industry. And that's actually really neat. It's like the life of it exists when the people actually come together. The structure is the desire to converse. It is the desire to push the boundaries. It is the desire to do something more than what they're used to. And that's,
Yeah, because the other thing people don't realize on the outside, people don't realize on the inside, like I said earlier, to be an actor, it's like being a golfer. Like you're out there on the field by yourself. The only other person you talk to, like a golfer, is your caddy. Well, the only person you talk to as an actor really is to your agent or manager. But you never talk shop with other actors. Like there's no transparency. No one will be like, how much you get paid on that last TV show you did? No one talks like that. No one talks about like, what was your contract negotiations like? Like, what were the things you got? And when I flew out to the Emmys last year, was it just last year or 2 years ago? My husband was nominated for an Emmy that year, and a lot of my girlfriends were there, and they all gave me gems of knowledge. And I said, why doesn't everyone know that information? Wait, what did you just say? Why does everyone not know that? I'm like, wait a minute, you can ask for that on a contract? Why does everybody don't know this? And a reason, and Viola Davis right now has gone viral with a video recently about how she's not getting paid her worth. They call her like the Black Meryl Streep, but they don't pay her like the Black Meryl Streep. Well, one part of that is systemic racism and people get away with it. But the other part of it is because we don't communicate, we don't even know what's normal. And so I have some great allies who are white women who've told me like, listen, you're going out for this project, let me tell you how much money they have to give. Changes the whole ball game. And that has happened to other friends of mine and to other famous people that you have heard of. You'd be shocked to hear how their white girlfriends help go to bat to the producers and say, if you're going to pay me this much, you're going to pay my Black co-star that much as well. But again, that's because they had a communication. Someone said, listen, they're only going to pay me this much. And the other person says, not today. We're going to hold hands and walk through that door and say, we're going to do this together or we're going to break up this entire production. That's what it has to be about. It has to be about people interested enough in holding hands, walking through the door and having conversations. So Creatrix House will help push that, but also we have a database that's encrypted where people can upload how much did you get paid on TBS, NBC, CBS? What were your contracts like? What were the things that they put in your contract? And this is all encrypted. It's safe. And the people can just open it if you're a member and you can say, oh, thank you. Because then you understand how to negotiate. Then you can be like, oh, that's not a crazy number to ask for. Great. Because they're hoping that you don't know. And so then all of our boats don't get to float as high as they should be because none of us know how much we should be asking. And again, we're in a new time in Hollywood where, again, Black and brown women are making more money now, or they have more opportunities to make money, but aren't asking for the right money.
Oh, wow. So I'm curious, what was the moment, the entrepreneur to entrepreneur moment that you decided that you're going to actually create this? Because it sounds amazing. And I'm so happy that you're doing it. But at one point, thoughts become reality. There's that spark where action happens. Where for you was that moment that Creatrix House was born? Like
the moment when at the last one that I threw, to see that 4 times the amount of people came, that one of the women who came left an event at the UN. Gloria Steinem was there. She said, all these fancy people. And she said, I left that to come to this event. And I was like, what? And I said, why? And she said, because this is what I actually need. And to me, that spoke to that she felt the same type of loneliness and isolation, and that she wanted to fill the gap. The third thing that happened at that last gathering was I had a talking point, and the talking point was if you had the essential tools that you needed, would you do something else on top of acting? And we went around the circle. Everyone, minus 5 people, and this is a room of, how many people came? 75 people?
Wow.
Everyone had another passion that they wanted to work on and had not worked on it because they felt like they didn't have the expertise, or their agent and manager convinced them that if they did something else outside of acting, it was like they were cheating on their career, and it's just not right. When really they're only saying that because the agent and manager knows if they make more money over there, then that takes away from their money, because your agent and manager only make money if you make money. Okay. And so what I realized was, oh my God, we all have the same feeling that we want to create other things, have more impact in the world outside of acting, give back to the world in a bigger way than just acting. But the resources aren't there because the community is not there. So I asked everyone, I was like, would y'all keep wanting to do this? And they were like, absolutely. So that's what happened. We kept having Zoom calls even when this craziness happened. People still showed up. People still had conversations. And then I started to have conversations about, would you pay for a membership if I made sure that certain things, like all these things I just talked about, if you knew that leading minds would come in and talk, if you knew that you would learn tangible skills. So you want to create a shampoo? Great. We'll bring in someone who's done that, and they'll talk about how not only you can do it, but how you need to think about your bottle. You can license your bottle. You can license the color. You can license it out to a company that doesn't usually do products for that type of hair. And that all came from that last gathering. And a big part of that was also because the person I brought on who spoke was an actress, but she pivoted and became a tech mogul. She started 3 different companies. She made over $30 million in the process, but she's an actress first, and then she pivoted. And so she helped break everyone's mind open of like, oh my God, I can do other things. And I'm like, yo, she's just one of many people. So I think actors, artists in general are wonderful people who want to give back. And so why not give them the resources to be able to do that in a meaningful way, and do it in a way that's about creating collaboration with other people who might not even be in their sector. Kevin Hart talks about this all the time. Kevin Hart, he's an amazing comedian, but he talks about he learns some of the most valuable things from other people outside of his industry. And then he listens to them and he talks about what he's up to, and then he bridges a gap. And he's like, oh, that's a business. Imagine all the businesses these women can create if they're just in the right conversations with people.
Wow.
So that was the moment. It was the last one I threw.
Yeah, it was the last brunch. And no, it was kind of like the catalyst moment. And then it kind of had to happen.
Yeah, and then thankfully I found a partner. Listen, before my partner is her name's Stephanie Lily Smith. She's brilliant. She's a former actress too, or she still is an actress. She used to be an agent and manager. She's also like a spiritual coach. So she's just like she's like all the things that I'm not, she is much better. She's like, but before she came into my life, I kept walking around and be like, oh, if I could just find someone who's like, who understands my energy, but who's like also a great executor at the same time. Because I've had other partners in my life who you'll have an idea, but they never execute. This woman, everything you throw her way, it gets executed. We play the best tennis. It's like, boom, what about that? Great. And then, so that's why I'm like, whatever idea you have, if you just find one other person. And here's a little fact people should know, which is, to be the person with the idea is like the crazy one. The person who comes on and becomes your partner, they're the leader. They say it actually takes more guts to come on and be the second than to be the first. And there's a great TED talk where they have like a crazy person in the middle of a beach and they're just dancing by themselves. No one's dancing with them. Have you seen this TED talk?
I have seen. I showed this video to people.
It's brilliant, right? Because you never think about it like this. Like it's one person dancing. And at first, when the first person dances, everyone's like, that person's crazy. No one's dancing. There's no music. And they're like, why is this person's crazy? Then the second person comes and they dance. And then people are like, huh, aren't they cute? Because it's 2 of them. It becomes all of a sudden the gap of time before the third, fourth, and then like critical mass, it's so much shorter. But the first person is crazy. So like when it was just me with the idea, I felt very crazy. When she came on and helped me with the last pop-up that I did, she made me realize not only is it not crazy, it's valuable and it's worthwhile. So partnerships are important.
Yeah. Who would you say, I guess, how do you think, how can we help support, get the word out, or who should be, like, who's coming on board? What's next? I want to hear more. And how do we help?
Well, first of all, I tell everyone, go to Creatrix House, Haus, I'm sure it's here below this somewhere. You can go there and sign up. So when we launch, you can be one of the first people. And when we launch, it'll be this fall. I can't say yet when in the fall because I'm not launching that information here, but I'll be launching it over there. But it will be in the fall when we launch. And when we open it up, it'll be a very short window when we'll bring in our first round of members. And it's like an application process because, again, we want creative professionals. This isn't a group for newcomers who are creatives. This is for people who are professional, who've had some legs in the industry. That's where we are right now with the company. And then, well, at that party, when we launch in the fall, then we'll announce who we have listed as our first leading mind, which is pretty spectacular, and also what our first solution area will be. But we'll kick it off as a launch party. And we look like we probably won't be doing it in person. So we have this really fun idea where when we launch it, all the first round members will get these like goodie boxes. And in this box will be like a fun drink that we'll all share together and a whole bunch of other fun creatrix supplies to get you through COVID for the first quarter as we launch the entire business. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I'm so happy that I've had something like this to work on, but the synergy of having something like this to work on, like a sisterhood, and at the same time having so much activism happening all over the world, it's like proving the concept of the company. And because this is the first time in the civil rights movement where you've seen so many people who don't look like me, but who look like white people who are out there in the street, they want this company to exist and to thrive just as much as me and my community want it to thrive. And that's been really emotional for me and just really, I want to say humbling, but it's just so wonderful because like I said, my career has been one where I've always had to toot my own horn in my head, right? I'm like, nope, I've got my own plan. I know this is a good idea. Even especially people who didn't look like me who told me it's not necessarily for me. So now to be here in 2020 and to have people say, this is so valuable. Yes, please do this. And it allows space for other people to be a part of the solution. Because I wasn't interested in creating a company that was just for Black people. I wanted a company where it's like the center of it is about amplifying these voices. And it's about everyone coming together to make sure that happens. Because, you know, there are good people. There are wonderful allies, but we don't necessarily have the tools. Listen, if I was a white person right now, and this is a lot of my friends who've reached out, a lot of people feel very helpless. Like, how do you do something that feels like it's active and it's not just performative allyship? This is something that my friends keep saying to me. They're like, this is great because it's more than like, I can actually come in as a person who runs my own digital company and say, hi, ladies, let me teach you this skill. Or ladies, listen, I have a great job opportunity and you're exactly the type of women I want to have in my company. Like, that's never happened before. Usually it's very segregated. And I'm like, segregation might not be the key in this particular way. At least that's not what I'm interested in with my company.
If you could, if this being part of a script that is going to be made into the movie, where you know, I actually do that. I sometimes think on crazy times, hard times, pivotal times, I'm like,
this is one of your tricks. This is one of your tools. Okay, yeah.
But it's kind of like, this is such an amazing moment. Just everything contextually, kind of what the world needs, where you are, what you're doing, what you're creating. I mean, it's a culmination of what needs to happen. In your wildest visions, where is this a year from now? Like, what do you see, like, in the magic of it?
In a year from now,
or what year?
Yeah, like
5 years. I don't know what time is here these days, but like,
right. I mean, just in general, if I talked about the future, not even like a year from now, the future would be that our company would be the reason why so many new companies would exist. B, we would have like International Women of Color Day, where women come together. It becomes like a huge festival just to celebrate the melatonin from east to west. You know what I'm saying? And the other vision would be that we would be another place in the world where technology, software is being created to better the lives and to advance the lives of women all over the globe. And it all came from this little laboratory of creative women. That's what I hope the future. I hope the future is full of women who are leaders in their own fields, leaders in fields where there have never been women there before. I mean, that's what I hope. I see the future just being a place where people are no longer surprised that someone looks like me and has a business or has money or has access. Instead, it becomes like, it becomes just like, of course. I hope the future is one where a company like this just seems trite. Like, why would you need that? Because of course, so women of color exist. That's the future. I have a male friend of mine, very successful actor, who said, businesses like this will always be needed until there becomes a day where you're like, are all successful women of color? I mean, the number one group who are entrepreneurs in this country are Black women. Black women are starting more companies right now than ever in the history of time. They're doing it, they're outpacing every other group, and they're doing it because they're not making equal pay in their regular jobs. So they figure to go off and do it themselves. However, they go off and do it themselves and they don't necessarily last as long, because when it's time to raise money, friends and family, this is a demographic that cannot take money from friends and family at the same level as white families can. So you might raise $3,000 over here where your counterpart's raising $30,000, $60,000, $90,000. I love Shark Tank. This is the story all the time. You see people, and they talk about friends and family round, and it's like, no, I pray that Creatrix House gets to have a fund, and we are the friends and family round. You need money, you come here, we will be your friends and family. We make up that space.
That is awesome. And on that note, I want to thank you so much. I've got the tingles. I'm like super excited. It's hard to make me tingle. But I just want to say thank you. We are at 9, but this was like completely, gosh, time flies.
Oh, that was great.
and I think, and I hope all of you enjoyed that, the dialogue, and got so much out of it.
Thank you so much for having me. And I have to just say how much I love your products. Okay. And my favorite product is the night cream that I put on every morning and every night. Okay. And my second favorite product is the
Martini, or the polish, or the oil?
Martini. Yes, this the
body oil. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that right there. Do you know what I think of when I put that on my skin? I think, let me put on my color. Let me put on my color so it can just shine.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. I feel like when your skin is hydrated, everybody wants to be in your skin. Okay. And that's how I feel when I put on those products. I'm like, everybody want to be this color today. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, thank you. Oh, wow. Kartini is a princess. She's an Indonesian princess that fought for the rights of women and for the education of women. That is why we named the oil that. So
I know. Which is like, it is a creatrix. That is what that is. One who is the source of all creative power, must it flow. So this, yes. See, you're my spirit person.
And same. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank
you so much. And thank you, everyone. I'm just going to give a quick up next, and I'll also share Cassie's information. So just a quick up next, we have Natsuyo Lipschutz, and that is on August 6th. She's also a great speaker, and she's also a good friend of Yoshiko, who's my business partner, and we all went to business school together. And she's a professional dancer that is now an amazing speaker on cross-cultural communication. So on the theme of collaboration and connecting, please join. She's here just to give her own experience in dealing and bridging with how to communicate effectively with people across different cultures and how to manage diversity. So hope you tune in for that one. If you want to present, we're here just to share with you how you can come. If you know someone who is just has something valuable that to share, just a spirit having to be free, and we'd love to connect with them. It's quite simple. The way to come on is just to go to our website, and we have a section that's actually our JUARA Wellness webinars right on our homepage. And if you click on that, there is a list of future people coming up and also previous guests. And there is a Google form right there. If they do click it, you can fill out the form, and then we're happy to reach out to them and connect. Please connect with us. This is Cassie. Please follow her on Instagram, and Creatrix House. I'm super excited for this. And I'm so proud and so happy, Cassandra, that you've launched this. And so please follow. And I think that is it for tonight. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Cassie. Have a good night. Be well, be healthy, be safe, and we will see you soon. Bye.